What's up, everyone? We've got another epic episode of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Show. Who is our guest today? Introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Skarlon, and I'm obsessed with Aluba the Jester of Despia.
Loved it.
That's about it.
Another player of the second best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! After Rescue Ace. I mean...
We've been in the podcast about a minute, and Fabs has already started the Rescue Ace propaganda. I can't do
like this. Brandon is really just... It's funny, actually. I'm hijacking him. I'm going to say it because I think it's funny. So I released the Rescue Ace guide, and then I posted it in the Dark Lord Discord, and someone was like, "Oh, is this a Dark Lord variant?" And I was like, "No, but everything is Rescue Ace support." I was like, "Every deck is just Rescue Ace, but with extra steps."
Yeah, fair enough.
But anyway, Skarlon, sorry. Before I get too much into, do you mind giving us a bit of an introduction into yourself, what you do, all of that stuff?
Sure. Yeah, this is the sort of topic that I'm not very good at, but I kind of on and off do general sort of YouTube content on mostly branded stuff, but just kind of just whatever I'm feeling like at the time. I talk a lot on Twitter about terrible takes that I have about the various things about the format. I'm trying to tone down my complaining about the game, but you'll see it every once in a while. But yeah, I just do like every once in a while a little bit of a quiz show, but it's generally like branded content, deck profiles, things like that. I'm trying to bring in a few new things soon, but like, yeah, it's sort of all over the place at the minute. I try and find the time.
Lovely.
Good stuff.
So, what was your motivation initially for starting to be a creator then? Like, what pulled you into it?
It's interesting, actually. I am one of those people that's like, yeah, always wanted to be someone on YouTube. It's in terms of like with Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff. They didn't really start with Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, I actually remember. It was like several years ago. Like, I was still in like 15, 16, something like that, maybe younger, and I got like one of those terrible Xbox capture cards for like the 36001 or whatever, and I like, recording on the Xbox mic, direct upload, unedited to YouTube and all that. That was like my origin. That's all gone. That was on this channel, but it's all gone now. Took a long break after that because I was like, yeah, this is utterly pointless. Before I got back into Yu-Gi-Oh itself, actually, I started just like streaming in off time, just like to find something to do. And I was playing Forbidden Memories because that was like the thing. Is like, I was still in this sort of point of, I hate modern Yu-Gi-Oh. It's all Shinkroshis and everything, pens. I didn't even know what a pen was, I don't think, back then. But yeah, I just played a lot of Forbidden Memories because that was something I enjoyed. And then I started watching a lot of Farfa and stuff and Coda, and I got into really active in Coda's community. That's sort of how I got back into Yu-Gi-Oh and everything. Actually making content. I'm trying to remember I'm actually going to check what my first upload was as the new stuff, because I'm trying to remember.
Was it sort of something that just sort of happened gradually? It wasn't really like a specific moment?
Yeah, so I was mostly still just doing Twitch stream. I would stream Yu-Gi-Oh once in a while, and then I uploaded like a couple branded profiles or whatever. It was like pre-structured Despia and all that. I uploaded a few videos about that. And then I uploaded like NR footage for Master or whatever. And then I actually started doing like what like hit the point where it's like, oh, this is something I could actually do. It was when I, because I was already friends with Coda, already had the interaction with her and everything. I was like, hey, there's this quiz series thing that this Hearthstone YouTuber does. What if I did something similar with, Yu-Gi-Oh, and it was the can Coda read cards, and it was where I edit a Yu-Gi-Oh card and change features about it and see if you can spot the difference. And that was like, that blew up. And I was like, okay, this is like a sort of foot in the door that I can get other people to look at this video and go, hey, this is a big video I did. Do you want to get in on this? Do you want to like do a video for me? And yeah, when those like actually got traction and like people started to actually know who I was, and like even a little bit in these communities, and people started like, it's probably like, when people start noticing you in chat and things like that, it's sort of built up this sort of motivation of like, oh, this is something I can actually do. This is something that people actually enjoy. So yeah, that's kind of where all the motivation for it came from.
Wow. And so how have you found it since you started? How have you been finding the journey?
So slower than I'd like, but that's my own fault. Because I just don't upload very often. It is difficult. I got diagnosed with like ADHD like a year or two ago, and that's like a huge issue. It's very, very difficult to motivate myself to do editing or get stuff recording going. Like I mentioned it before we started that like I've got like 8 videos ready to go up, but I just haven't edited them yet, and it's like that's a huge hurdle. Yeah, it's like I'm liking that I get a positive reaction of it. I haven't really had any negative reactions to any of my content, really. I like that generally people seem to like what I upload. There's videos I wish did better than they do, but like that's same with everyone, right? It's nice to have that, you know, put something out there and then you get that response from someone that's like, oh, I was waiting for another episode of this. Thank you so much. And there's like, really, really helps me keep motivation for it. So I'm having a great time doing content and stuff. It's I guess the more other big thing is like it's gotten me into know a lot of people. Like there's a lot of people in the community that, and reasonably enough, they're not gonna generally just big YouTubers and stuff aren't gonna try and like get to know you and have a long interaction with you if you're not someone that like they recognize or like build up that rapport with. And it's given me that ability to build a rapport where I can like, you know, walk up to, you know, Crush Cards or DZ for whatever at a event and chat with them for like 20 minutes because I'm not just some random fan coming up or whatever, right? That is something nice. It's nice to get to know a lot of people through the community.
Yeah. How big would you say like the community is in terms of your journey as like a creator and as a player? Because you mentioned like you obviously are quite active on Twitter. Twitter is like a very community-driven space, especially for Yu-Gi-Oh. There's like a lot of, I guess like some of the big Twitter faces you could mention, like obviously like Eva. Shout out to Eva. Yourself as well. Diamond Dude YGO, I believe it is. He's a name that I see a lot.
He's really active, yeah.
Yeah, so like how important would you say Twitter actually is like these days to a content creator?
It's difficult, right? Because I don't really know how much of it like transfers between. My Twitter grows like much faster than my YouTube at the minute. It's in terms of relatively, right? Like, in terms of like percentage or whatever. It's definitely really, really important to like if there is an active community in something. For example, there is a couple like YouTubers, like I think the most obvious example is like Decade, right? Decade has a big account. He's like a big channel and everything, but he does not really engage with the wider community. So he doesn't really have a rapport with anyone. He doesn't do collabs. He doesn't chat with the community or anything. He has his own close-knit community. He's not really in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, if you know what I mean. Like, he managed to capitalize on something that made him pretty successful. So it's not like you have to do that engagement in the community to be successful. But I think it is very helpful. I think like a lot of people just know who I am because I interact a lot on Twitter, and like whether or not that's healthy is a different thing. But I think it gets a decent amount of traction for the channel. I think it gets more people to look at Twitch than anything else. Like more people go from Twitter to Twitch than directly to YouTube. But it definitely helps. And yeah, it's a continuation of that sort of community. It's really helpful for people to get to know you, because even if you don't get big on YouTube, right? Even if you're not like getting huge view numbers or whatever, or big subscriber numbers, people that just interact with you a lot on Twitter and stuff are more likely to just like want to do other stuff with you. And like there's a lot of people I've gone into contact with for videos that are just like from talking to them on Twitter or whatever. Like, so yeah, it's pretty, I don't see a reason not to do it. Like, I think it's you probably should be at least a little bit active on Twitter if you want to grow a bit, because like it's just net positive.
Yeah, definitely.
I think
I could speak that long.
I really agree, and I think it's one of the things that I think is not immediately obvious to a lot of people in Yu-Gi-Oh. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. I feel like I've noticed this. A lot of you people who are into Yu-Gi-Oh don't use Twitter, for example. They use Facebook. So like Facebook, is where it's significant.
Yes.
And it's like, so I use myself as an example. Like when I first came on YouTube, when I first came into the community, Twitter wasn't even in my head as a thing that I needed to focus on. I didn't even realize there was a community there until like one day, like I was told, okay, it's like, oh, people do Twitter, and then it's like you have to interact with people there and stuff. It's completely different. Yeah, so it's almost a different world for I think a lot of people, because it's just it's not what we expect.
It's the same with Discord and everything, like all these little individual YouTuber communities.
Yeah, so funny enough, Discord was where I started. So it's like you know how there's like Discords for each deck and stuff like
Archetype and stuff. Yeah.
So that's what I was really involved in. So I started with the Dark Lord one, and then I started getting involved in other ones. I had no idea that people were chilling on like, I don't know, like Facebook and Twitter. No, Twitter and other things and Twitch and all these things. But you know, I do things really. But would you say, in fact, well, actually, I'm gonna let this pivot us into the next point of discussion, actually, because I was gonna say, would you say it's for better or for worse? But I think we can start off with some of the worse that has happened recently.
Yeah.
So there was recently a little bit of sauce, a little bit of drama on YouTube.
There's a little bit of drama.
A little bit of madness.
So something happened to do with this simulator called YGO Omega.
Yes.
Yeah, and I heard Sam that you have a bit of an insight into it. Do you mind dropping it for us?
So I think a lot of people have a bit of insight into this. There was a lot of people I wouldn't have expected to directly engage that. I think that's one of the things that brings a lot of people together, particularly in the Twitter space, is a little bit of trolling, and that is So the way that sort of discourse started was it got really blown up that like it could have been solved really easily and wasn't, and it was that someone got called a slur in Omega chat because there's got a public chat that's not like got any filters or anything on it, and they went to the Discord and said, "Hey, is there anything you can do about this? Can you ban this player or anything like that? Can you at least disable the chat?" Something like that. And the response they essentially got was, when you install Omega, you sign up for an unmoderated chat. We're not going to moderate it. Which, as you can imagine, is not going to get a particularly favorable response.
Yeah.
No, that's...
It's very, very strange to like have this attitude of like, this is our platform, but we're not responsible for the things people say on it. Like, whether or not you're legally responsible is one thing, like that's a different argument, but whether or not if you have the ability to punish people for being awful and you don't because you just can't be bothered, then that speaks volumes, right?
Yeah, there's one thing between, sorry to cut you off there, Fabs. There's a difference between not being able to do something and not being bothered to do something, right? And I think that's the big thing that everyone would kind of went, what the fuck is going on here? To my knowledge, the Discord server went up like a rocket in flames on release of that.
Yeah, it was that was sort of like the when you get under the beyond the basic trolling and like arguing and the sort of fire that was going on, that was the sort of argument fundamentally was them, the Omega sort of devs and mods saying we can't do this, and the sort of, well, no, you can, you just don't want to, because a lot of the arguments they'd come out with is sort of coming from the position of people that didn't really know how moderating a chat works, because the arguments you'd hear were mostly was like three. It was like mods. This was like the weirdest one. Was like, we're volunteer moderators, so we only have to moderate what we want to. It's like, and that's not what a volunteer job means. Like, you know, if you volunteer for even if you're not getting paid for a job, you volunteer for it. You can't just say no when they ask you to do something, right? Like, you're not going to keep that position. The other argument was like, oh, well, how do you expect us to individually watch every single match that's going on the platform? And that just is lacks understanding of how chat filtering and moderation works.
Yeah.
Because you can put in a report system. Sorry for getting
definitely. No, it's all right.
Yeah, and I feel like this is my thing is that the biggest mistake I think they made is how they interacted with that, because I feel like if they had turned around and said, it's really hard, we'll try and do our best, it might have been better. But that's not really how it came across when I saw messages. It was kind of like, we just can't, so deal with it. Yeah. It's like, well, okay then. And then it's like, when people challenged them on that, it was like, it wasn't like, okay, you know what, maybe you're right and we'll have a discussion. It was like, no, F you, you're blocked. F you, you're banned.
Yeah.
And then it's like, whoa, okay, like, you're really doubling down on this. Like, that's what I think. Because for me personally, when I first saw the first message and they were like, oh, it's kind of, when I saw their messages and they were saying, oh, it's hard, it's a lot of volume. So I was like, okay, maybe you're right. Maybe it is a lot of effort. But then after that, I was like, it doesn't seem like it's a lot of effort. It just seems like you think it's okay. And then when I saw, I don't know, I feel like their name begins with a Y. And they said something like, oh, just because someone said this word, they should be banned. I was like, oh, now you just seem...
Yeah.
That's that's when all the Lego started to fall down, really, because one of the hosts' true colours started to be shown, because this is actually the first way that I was introduced with it. I saw that Eva Lise had been accused of igniting the woke mob to come for them.
I thought that was jokes. When I saw
that was Ryder was the guy Ryder. Yeah,
that was it. Yeah, and MBT
not to be
also
confused with the Twitter user Ryder that is really cool and nice in the community. It's unfortunate
not to be confused.
Yeah.
Not to be confused. And again, my personal favourite moment of the entire thing was MBT joining the Discord and saying something along the lines of, I heard we were here to defend the last bastion of free speech.
It was great. The messages coming out of that were really nice, really funny.
Yeah.
DZ at one point came in and made like a Spider-Man reference. That was nice. That was
funny. Yeah. That was a lot of good stuff. Yeah. Well, not good stuff, but you know what I mean.
It's a shame, though, because sometimes I feel like people just take themselves too seriously. Like, I just... I don't know what goes through your head when you're like the moderator. I see the same on Reddit sometimes with the moderators, and it's like they just act so like superior, and it's like, where did you guys get this from? Like, I don't like.
There's a few sort of sections and little communities that are like that do out like that. I've noticed that in a few places. Like, not naming names. This is a bit of a tangent. I once like I did something like didn't really. I made some tweet about like an unreleased card that we didn't have like a proper translation for or whatever, and I got like a response from I got like a contact from somebody elsewhere that basically like said that that me posting an inaccurate translation was a danger to the community, and that I was not like respecting their position as someone that would post a more accurate translation. It's like really weird the sort of superiority people put on themselves when they're in that sort of position.
Yeah,
I won't go any further on that, but like,
yeah, I'd love to say that clout is a hell of a drug, but what kind of clout does a Discord mod have?
Yeah, you don't know the bitches that you get when you're Discord. Levels there.
Karma can buy happiness, apparently.
I mean, apparently it can, because like, I it's checks, but like. I got to the point where like I could contact YouTubers and everything for videos because I became one of Coda's mods, and like people just that's one of Coda's mods, and like that actually did help me, which is crazy. But it's not that easy.
Yeah. But also, I imagine, Skarlon, that you're not walking around pretending that you're like the queen of all you survey.
I think I removed it from my bio recently on Twitter. It might still be there. I think like the main idea that came across from Omega was like, this is a team that didn't discuss among themselves what their reaction was. And don't agree with each other, because there was so much inconsistency. Like, different mods were making different arguments, the devs were making different arguments. The one guy, Ryder, he got unmodded and remodded like 3 times over the course of the drama before he was permanently demodded. And it very much came across to say, okay, so some of you think the stuff he does is okay, some of you don't. And it was only when like people started bringing in his picture screenshots of his really, really transphobic tweets, which was very interesting to see when, they'd made a post like, oh, we have a team made up of LGBT people, and it's like, are they okay with this?
Yeah.
That's when the penny dropped. When we saw the post, I was like, I was ready. I loved. I think it was Chris who made the post and shit, and I was laughing about it with that before. This guy is the quintessential Trump supporter. Look, and look, I'm sorry if that sounds bad, derogatory, as I
totally get you though. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't feel bad about it. Look, it's he's the sunglasses in the
sunglasses
in the F-150. That's a Trump supporter right there. And,
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah.
like, that's it. It's like someone was like, "You look familiar," and then he showed the picture of like bunches of them with him. Then it's like, yeah, that's what you got.
Yeah, that's
know
it.
what you do.
It's picking him out of a
Yes.
lineup.
Yeah. So where were you on January the 6th, 2021?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I think that was absolutely hilarious. Recently, I feel like there's been a lot of interesting Twitter dramas. To be honest, that's one thing I'm beginning to enjoy. So again, like I didn't used to use Twitter before, but I do like the drama. Drama's it's nice.
I think it's
Yeah,
it's
so-
but sorry.
No, go on.
Yeah, I think it's a very valuable skill actually on the subject of that. A very valuable skill to know when to and to not engage in the Twitter drama, because sometimes it can, you'll have a banger funny statement about something and it'll go really well, and then sometimes you'll just say a take that will not go well at all, and you're like, yeah, okay, maybe I should have just not said anything. And it's sometimes difficult to engage with.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I'm definitely just a watcher. I'm not an engager. So what were you gonna say then?
I was going to say, so how has Omega actually been left right now?
Right. Yeah. So unfortunately, I don't have a hands-on look because I'm too lazy to set up an alt account for it. But I got timed out for a week at one point during the sort of arguing. And when I went to bed and came back, I'd been banned. So it seems that a lot of people this happened, that they just got converted blanket a bunch of these timeouts to bans to make things easier, I guess. But I remember seeing that I think it was MBT posted a announcement they'd done, which was like, it's like written well, that it's like, oh yeah, we understand, and these are the issues, this is why we haven't done this. For now, we're going to remove chat, but we might implement a filtering feature or whatever. We can't promise it, all that. And it's like, that announcement isn't too bad. It's like, and I can understand why a lot of people go, oh, okay, they're improving, right? My sort of issue with it is, one, they still carry on that idea of, oh, we might not implement a filter because some things will be caught by a filter that shouldn't be, and not everything can be caught by a filter. And it's just, I really don't vibe with that, we can't catch everything, so we won't catch anything approach,
So, what, I'll be honest. I actually say that in terms of my perspective on how it should go, I actually don't necessarily see a problem with them saying chat is opt-in, this is a risk of opting in chat. I actually don't see anything wrong with that. However, I do think, though, if you're going to take that standpoint, you need to kind of take that standpoint across the board of, okay, this is opt-in, but because we know it's degenerate and toxic, we're going to perhaps say that you have to have an account to be able to talk, and then we're also going to say that it's turned off by default for everyone, and then we're also going to say that we're not going to moderate on any of our platforms. I think the process of doing it in some places yes, in some places no, is where I think there's an issue. And I think also, if you're going to take a stand on something, take a stand because you actually think it makes sense. Don't just take a stand because people are saying things and you want to like just be a contrarian for no reason. Because I feel like that's the problem. It's like, if they had said, we're actually not moderating because we genuinely don't believe it's the right thing to do, we've discussed it amongst the mod team. Funnily enough, so, like I said, I used to be on the, I'm the head mod of the Dark Lord Discord server. And they had an issue on the server where there were some inappropriate pictures being shared around. And they asked me what to do. I don't talk on the on the server anymore. Like I've said, Dark Lords are shit now, so I don't talk about that. Yes, I don't involve the server anymore. But like, they asked me my opinion. I remember saying to them that, look, you guys are the mod team. You guys, and the mod team, apart from me, I was a dictatorship, but everyone else was democratically elected. So I was like, look, people have decided to put you guys in leadership positions. So decide amongst yourselves, because you have the best judgment, because that's why people judged you, and make the decision. Yeah. But just make sure that you guys agree and you think it makes sense. So I think if they had said, we're doing this because we think it's the right thing to do, we actually believe in freedom of speech, etc., etc. But it didn't feel like they were doing that. And I think that's where the problem is. Because honestly and truly, like, I would say, especially as someone who grew up on Xbox Live and all of these things, for example, look, there's a reason why I didn't have a headset. Like, I have an Xbox, there's a reason why I don't have a headset. Same with my PS4, because I know what can go on. And so I do think there is personal responsibility there. But I also think that while there is personal responsibility, it's like when you own a platform, you just need to stick to your guns and say, if this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing. Don't go back and forth just because I don't know, you think it's cool. But
it's and that does touch on something I was going to say as well. I'll note that even if you don't plan planting like a filtering over all chat. You just can't say certain words. Like there are other solutions, right? Like yeah, the chat is opt-in to an extent. For example, like that you bring up the Xbox headset and everything. Like if you play like an FPS on PC, for example, you don't have that luxury of because you have to use the heads anyway. But generally, a lot of FPS games and stuff now will just have you can open the leaderboard and there is a mute all button, and it just permanently mutes every person in the game. And it's like, yeah, you can that is only on the client side. It doesn't stop people from saying whatever they want, but someone can choose to just not engage with any of it.
Exactly.
And so, like, it's one thing to say, oh, chat is opt-in, but I think you should be able to also choose what chat you see, not just yes, no, right? Like, you could just put in, would you like to filter these terms? Yes, okay. I won't see these. They can still say them, but I won't see them.
Yeah, like League since I think 2011 has had a profanity filter.
Yeah, Bro, Club Penguin has. Club Penguin has.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about it?
Club Penguin, you get banned.
If I'm not mistaken, Hammer Hotel did as well. Yeah, I used to bang. Hammer Hotel used to smash, man. You got Hammer Hotel sick. Yeah, that used to have it as well. I'm like 95% sure that I was like probably like this close to being groomed on it. I like the more.
Oh my god,
you guys. As I was on Hammer Hotel as a young person, like because I used to use it when I was in like, I think probably in primary school.
They're like year 5 times.
I would not let my child on Habbo Hotel, man.
No way, no shot.
I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this thing is mad. Like I was just talking to random strangers on the internet. Like they could have said anything to me, and I just would have casually just walked. Anyway, that's besides the point. But...
Yeah, the point of the story is, Omega. It's clearly so easy to implement something. Why didn't you?
Yeah.
Like, the whole thing is a shit show.
Yeah, it's difficult for me at this point. My sort of conclusion is like it's difficult for me to believe that it was any reason other than we just don't care. Like
it was, it was we don't care, and then when they got challenged,
I think the actual answer is they don't care. Like as my personal take, like, and that's mostly because of stuff in the Discord that like first off that people were getting banned for challenging them, and then there was someone. This is another funny thing because there is a profanity filter in their Discord, right? You can't swear, but their filter doesn't include slurs.
Oh, lovely.
So there was people in there just saying slurs during this whole argument, and their messages would get deleted, but they didn't get banned.
Yeah.
People arguing with them got banned, and they didn't. It's like that kind of says a lot about the choices of your moderators, and you obviously you don't know which moderator was doing this banning. So it was probably all that one guy, and he's clearly. I think it will put because he said they didn't ban him, but they demodded him. And it's like, yeah, they didn't think all this Twitter activity and stuff was enough to ban him. But he said like, oh yeah, the mods gave in to the woke mob. It's like, so okay, I guess he was probably the one doing all those bans, but the fact that he's still there and allowed to engage with that community is something that, I don't really want to support that community really, that platform.
No. So the moral of the story is go play and Dueling Book because it will make you a better player.
I was gonna say to be honest, I don't even look. I don't play on that simulator anyway. Like we've had I made a video about this a long time ago, and I think most of the simulators are not very good.
Every simulator has its issues.
And it's like I feel like for me it's like the only simulator that is worth playing on for most people. I feel like is gonna be Dueling Book. If you're trying to get better at Dueling Book, for almost everything else, it's Edo Pro. I can't think of a reason why I wouldn't play. I remember when it came out. It sounds like I'm not going to say all of my opinions. Sometimes I talk too much. Let's move on, guys. Before I say something I regret.
Well, I can touch on just like the platform and stuff. Like, my issue with Omega was like before then. Like, I played on Omega because I felt there was a better auto sim than Edo, and it had a card pool, which is better than Macedol. Like, I don't like the Macedol format, despite the fact that it is the better simulator. But it's the my issue with Omega is just it was so buggy that like I had this issue that just drove me insane. That there's a feature you can middle mouse on a card and it brings up the card to read it, right? Every once in a while, it'll just break. And it will just show you one card. It'll show you the same card, no matter where you click. Anyway, it's just like, I want to read this Rescue Ace card. Shows me a Darkhold card from 3 games ago. And I'm like, brilliant. I really needed to read this again.
It sounds very strong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
yeah.
Dueling Book.
Yeah, Dueling Book. Yeah.
Yeah, Dueling Book, I really like. I like doing a manual sim. I like being able to take back players and testing and everything. But it's the lag and the
lag is
disconnects,
horrid. I think
and having to engage with chat with people is sometimes really frustrating.
to me, it's not even the chat. It's just having to physically, like, someone can just decide to not play, basically.
Yeah.
And like that, I used to play a lot. Like, I used to just play whenever. Now I only play if there's a judge on.
Yeah.
I only play if there's a judge on, because if you play when there's not
That's
a judge
fair.
on, there are so many people who find it their life's mission to just like get in the game, do something wrong, and then hold you hostage. And they know they're wrong. They know 100% they're wrong, but they're like, I'll just wait. They'll wait like 30 minutes and they'll just exit. And it's like,
Yeah.
thank you for wasting my time. So.
It's it's one of those things that's also like more painful to me now that like I know a lot about like I am a judge and I know a lot about ruling. So I'm not a judge on Dueling Book, but a judge Yu-Gi-Oh and everything. And I know a lot about the depths and mechanics of the game. So it's generally 99% of the time that like a situation comes up where me and my opponent disagree, it's because I'm in the right. And like it's so frustrating to know for a fact I've read this document, I've read this official Konami ruling and all this as like and showing it to somebody because I know where it is off by heart, and they just go, "Don't agree. No, I don't like it.
Yeah.
No, don't like it." And that's also something you have to deal with in any other situation, even in real life, because you could just call the judge and they just come in the next like 10 seconds.
Yeah. Even in real life, I feel like a lot of these people wouldn't put it in real life just because it's like it's like we're all here. We can all see you're blankly cheating. It's like it would be hard to go to a locals and cheat in real life.
Yeah.
And not end up with like your jaw getting locked or something. But
Yeah.
it's how people are. Yeah. But oh, I know what I was about to ask, but I want to
Go on, Fabs. Go through.
I
was just gonna.
You guys told me about some reprints.
Yeah.
Yes, they did just announce a new set today. Actually,
Yeah.
Do you know what it's called? I can Google it and put it up.
This set
Battles
is-
of Legend Chapter 1. I can find the link for you. It was sent to me.
I think I found it. Let's see. I'm gonna stream it. You can tell me. Oh, I think this is it because you guys told me Photon Lord was in it, and I've just seen.
Yes.
Yeah, Photon
yes.
Lord. Yeah. Judgment Dragon reprint, by the way. Very pog.
Yeah,
very
yeah,
epic.
very nice. Secret rare, probably.
Nice.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
So this is good news. I think.
Is it?
Well, okay. Look.
There's a lot of cards
Yeah.
from this era that were only printed in Battles of Legend, and that is like an issue that had needed solving. So it's
That's
really
true.
nice that they've gone, oh yeah, this was we need to fix
Yeah.
this.
That's like, on one hand, I'm like, yeah, this is really good. On the other hand, I understand the front. In fact, one of our mates, so the OCG set where they're reprinting the cards and the OCG rarities. For example, one of our mates, he was saying how, because he collects cards, and he was saying how it's really frustrating for some of these sets because obviously he loses a lot of value. So he's like, he had a bunch of cards which is all going to tank now because of that new set. So I do understand the frustrations for for like a collector kind of player, where it's like, yeah, you lose value. But I think it's better in the long run. I think if you want to collect cards, the cards that should be rare. If a Starlight rare is expensive, I don't see it as a problem. When a random Ultra or random Secret is expensive, I do see that as a problem.
Yeah. Like that's like the whole point of Starlight rares and Ultima rares and everything, right? Is that you have something you can invest in if you're that kind of person. And I will absolutely side with people and like, for example, with Zeus, right? Zeus is getting like its second or third Starlight print, and it's like, yeah, I can like IP getting another Starlight and things like that. It's like I can absolutely understand the problem with that because I invested in this thing. Starlights are generally something that is never reprinted. I will assume it will keep its value, and then they announce it out of the gate. It's like, oh, cool. There's no way I'm going to be able to sell this because it's really expensive. So anyone that would be buying one would know there's a reprint coming. So I can absolutely understand the frustration with that, and that is like the one reprint I don't like them doing is printing in same rarity. It's also frustrating for like players that just want shiny cards because like, oh, cool, a rare slot is taken up by a card that already had this rarity. Like it's pretty annoying for that. I'm just looking at this now.
They did that with recently. There's something Konami does a lot recently as well, which I don't like, is when they only print the card in that rarity and then they put it in the sets. And they did it with Lubellion recently.
Lubellion is only a Starlight in Battles of Legend.
That's so dumb.
Yeah, like that's when I know Konami's putting the middle finger up because now I know exactly what they're saying. They're saying you buy this set for this card that you're probably not going to pull.
Yeah,
so,
it's with Lubellion. It's like I can understand it because it's like they don't when they build the sets like Battles of Legend, they don't strictly know when it's going to come out. Like, it usually comes out after the tins, and Rebellion will be in the tins. Like, it's guaranteed Darkwing Blast cards are going to be in the tins. Like, so it makes sense they wouldn't reprint it twice because they want the tins to sell. It's just an unfortunate timing of the release window of Battles of Legend.
Yeah.
The issue I have actually with that specifically is cards that they don't just reprint only in high rarity. Like, I remember when Blackluster Soldier Link, it was like a really expensive card, even though it wasn't good. Got reprinted in a Ghost Rare and an Ultimate Rare before it came back in an Ultra. It's like,
does that card,
who is this appealing to?
Yeah, that card, for the longest period of time, basically, I was like, I really like Blackluster Soldier, but
yeah.
I didn't get that card because it was literally like, there's no cheap rarity, and this card is only really useful in very, very niche specific situations. Like, I'm gonna go on eBay now and see like how much it is now. I'm sure the Ultra is now finally
cheap. Yeah, the Ultra's tanked at 100%.
Yeah. The reason wasn't the whole reason it was so expensive just due to like it being something in
secret or something.
Yeah, it was a secret, then it was a ghost, then it was an ulti.
But like in terms of the meta usage, wasn't it literally just Thunder Dragon used it because Sky Strikers couldn't out it?
Yeah.
That doesn't warrant. Yeah.
So it just stayed at that price because it never went down again. Because, and then that causes like this sort of knock-on effect, right? And this is a huge Soldier of Chaos, That it's really bad for new players for the bad cards to be expensive, because when you get into the game for the first time, you're like, oh, I'm told I need to pick up staples. I'll look at what the expensive staples are, and then you see a card like Blast. Oh, this is 60. Must be really good. And it's really unfortunate if someone
to never be able to use it.
The
card looks sick. I will be real. Like I have one. Yeah, I remember when I finally bit the bullet. No, I didn't buy it. Do you know what happened? I did buy it, but basically I traded for it, and then I pulled an ulti the next day, and I was like, I was like, okay, well, I guess I think I don't know, I sold the secret or whatever that I pulled, and then I sold the ghost that I pulled, and I kept the ulti.
Yeah. I actually have I have a couple cards that I bought like in high rarity or whatever because I thought they were going to be good or whatever. I have like this is one that little fun tale. So there was a point when when Branded started playing Floodgates and stuff with Sanctifier and Expulsion and all that. And when Granguinor came out, suddenly, we can send any level 6 or higher light or dark in the entire game to grave and then use it. Okay, cool. Let me see what those are. And I made like this big collection of like all these ones. I was like, okay, which of these are good? And I coped so hard on this thing that I bought an ulti, and it is Mind on Air. You ever read this?
I have never.
Mind on Air.
Yeah. This card says, while you control it, your opponent reveals their hand.
Oh, lovely.
So you would like summon it in their draw phase. You would see their entire hand, and
what the heck?
I'm absolutely playing this if
Vanquish Souls
ever meta, because they cannot play the game. Ooh. But I picked up the ulti. I was like, oh yeah, this will be good. It's not a good card.
Is. Do you know what? I'll be real. I'm very surprised that this card is not more popular because that's quite a nutty effect.
Yeah, but as it turns out, locking your opponent out summoning for an entire turn is probably better.
Good point.
Yeah.
I should know.
Gimmick the puppet.
I was doing it. So I was playing Branded this week at my locals.
Yeah.
I know I was hurting people's feelings. Look, I think they thought that we can't gimmick puppet lock anymore, but no. It just got easier because before it was like you could open like I don't know. Well, actually, to be honest, it's the same as before. You'd open Bell and all these things, but no one's prepared for it. So I was just playing the whole week gimmick puppet locking, and I was thinking, this is ridiculous. I'm so shocked that. This is just allowed.
It's crazy that they think the problem is the card summoning not the floodgates themselves. Right?
And I think that's the biggest thing as well, because genuinely, like Gimmick Puppet, it's like every time I read that card, I'm just more like, this is so stupid. Like
it's like, how is this card designed still in the game?
Yeah,
you could fix it really easily. Just make it so it only works if it's if its owner summoned it. But no,
the other thing
we're
is,
going to
Gimmick Puppets isn't even good. If you ban that card, like
you don't even play it.
Yeah, like you don't play that in Gimmick Puppets because partially because of that restriction. Gimmick Puppet is so bad that restriction makes you not want to play that card. Yeah. But
wow,
I don't know, man. Konami's interesting.
Yeah.
Definitely. I do actually, going back to the Battles of Legend set, it does make me think how many Edison reprints they're going to try and shove in this.
So it's like Hero's Revenge is like the main one, I think, right? Because that has Absolute Zero in it, which is the Edison reprint. Like they just like the most expensive like hero card is like a necessary. You need 3 of them or whatever.
Yeah.
But there'll be other stuff in there. I've just noticed in the announcement, and that's kind of something I'm not happy about, that this isn't a normal battle set, so it's not going to be ultras and secrets. It's mostly commons, and you get one secret per box. That is like pretty bad.
It's like the way the Legendary Duelist collections.
Yeah, and Hidden Arsenal. But Hidden Arsenal Chapter 1 was like the worst selling set of all time.
Yeah,
so, that's a strange choice, but like it'll be better for reprints anyway. I mean, if they're commons, it's not a problem, right? But I imagine a lot of people will be disappointed that not all these cards are going to be getting high rarity reprints. But it is nice, at least, just to have a lot of Edison reprints. I think it's like we're like a year away. I think it's very possible that next year we have an Edison YCS because they're going to capitalize on that.
I can see it happening.
Edison is getting more and more popular, and it's interesting. I am happy about it. I'm still waiting for TOS to become an actual format. When that becomes a format, I'll be fully on it. But I'm happy.
You got to wait another.
Yeah, it'll be a while.
It was 2019, right? So you got to wait till 2031. So it's been 12 years.
But yeah,
we'll be old and grey.
You'll be waiting for that.
I'll be quite excited. That was my thing. But I do like that an alternate format's becoming popular because while I don't think set rotation would be good for the health of Yu-Gi-Oh, I do think having old formats kind of solves that problem a bit because it's the same thing about GOAT. Like even though I used to like GOAT, now I find it a bit boring. But I guess like GOAT was more fun partially because I didn't just die straight away. Like I didn't know how to play GOAT the first game I played GOAT, but it wasn't like I didn't know how to play so I lost. It was like, no, I can just read the cards and it's actually relatively simple to get into. Like, that's one thing I'd say now that if I was to recommend someone to get into the game, I'd probably recommend just go play Edison. GOAT. Yeah,
I would say Edison honestly because it teaches you. That's where combo decks start existing, and that's where modern Yu-Gi-Oh starts.
How complex would you say it is? Because I've never really played it myself.
It's not particularly complicated. Like it has. It's like the perfect medium of like Go and currently decks are complex enough that there's a lot of theory that goes into it and everything. Like the format's constantly changing. Go has that to an extent as well. But like, this is something actually. There's one thing people don't talk about this enough. I think, and it's the reason I think one of the reasons I think Edison is so good of a format, and it solves one of the huge problems, one that I have with GOAT and two that I have with current Yu-Gi-Oh! And that is almost every deck that you pick up, you look at the extra deck, yes, there's generics, but there are like 7 archetypal cards and you are making those cards. Every deck is making its boss monsters. Hero is making the heroes. Fairies are making their stuff, like Blackwings are making a bunch of Blackwings. Like every... Like even Quick Draw Synchron, whatever, Quick Draw Dandy, they're making, the archetypal stuff.
Monsters,
you're making stuff that your deck was made to make. So every single match you play against a new deck, like, it's something that really tunes me out of Modern. That, like, Super Heavy came out, for example. It's like, oh, I wonder what this new deck does. Oh, that's a Baron. Oh, that's an Appaloosa. Oh, that's a Borrowload Savage. And then Vanadium comes out. It's like, oh, I wonder what they're doing. Oh, that's a Baron. It's like it gets really demotivating to see new decks come out and they're just making the same things every other deck has ever made. So that's what I think works really well about Edison is that you can look at any given deck and go, oh, I have a new thing that I'm playing into. I have new stuff I've got to interact with, new cards that you have a different experience every match. You're actually... It's not the same format over and over, which is really, really healthy for people that are coming in. And I think it's really good for new players as well.
I was going to ask, here's another question, because typically I would expect that a format gets solved. Is Edison not solved? I feel like if it's been out for this long...
You would think so, but yeah, it actually isn't. And it makes me wonder about like current formats and how much they could change with more time put into them. That like, since Edison formats started getting popular, there's been like a dozen changes to it. Like, I think the most
sorry, when you say changes to it, do you mean as in the decks in it, or you saying things are added?
The sort of meta shifted. Like people have been for a long time just like, yeah, Blackwing was the best deck. Nothing could beat Blackwing. You have to build your side deck and main deck to beat Blackwing. And now it's to the point where it's like, actually no, decks like Fairies are about as strong, if not stronger.
Yeah.
And it's just due to like deck building theory that was not explored enough back then. Like, even in like 2015 when like Soul Charge was everywhere and there was like it was at 3 and people didn't play 3. There's like there's this, especially now, it's like, yeah, this card's the best. I think it's a thing of like, I think it shows the most in Goat deck building that there's a lot of random one-ofs and two-ofs and stuff in decks, and you go, why did they do that? And I think most of the reason for it is just that they didn't have 3 of the card. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to build this, and I'm good enough that this is going to work. Yeah. But when you're, building for an old format, and like you want to be as optimal as possible, yeah, you can just play 3 of every good card, and it's going to be much more consistent than anything people were playing back then. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the main things.
I do think as well, building off that, also in Go times, Edison times, we didn't have like the Facebook groups, the Discords, the Twitters. Like you had like a few magazines and like Pojo forums. Like it must have been so much harder to like get a circle together.
You had to look for the top lists and things. You had to look for the meta experience, and like most of the time, and like that's another thing, especially now. YCS winners making content and teaching how to play decks and all, like Josh Schmidt doing all this content and everything, and like teaching people how to play the game and how to do deck building and everything and how to analyze a meta. And you just didn't have that back then. Like you would see a deck list of someone that won like Worlds or a ICS or whatever. It's like, yeah, that I must build my list like this, and you wouldn't really know why each of the decisions were made and why they did it in a certain way, or what the format was like that they had to play around, right?
Yeah, it must have been such a minefield, because I went on a little bit of a YouTube tangent earlier today on like old Yu-Gi-Oh YouTube, and it's just so wild how it's like people they just used to deck profiles would just be like so I played 3 Stratos whatever and then they'd upload their trade collections, like, and they'd have like their address and shit in their descriptions.
There's like, really, you shouldn't be doing this. You should not be putting your address on the internet like this.
Actually, it did make me feel a bit weird, because I don't know if you guys remember this, but I was talking about this with my wife. Do you guys remember when YouTube videos were you could only have up to 10 minutes on a YouTube video?
I don't know. That's like before my time. I was
really old school YouTube.
That's a throwback in it.
2008. Like that's like
real. I think it only.
That's when
I think it only stopped in like 2012. I think.
Yeah, that's like when the front page of YouTube was still like public. So it's like you go on YouTube and it's like you don't have your stuff. You just have like the different like sections and then miscategorizing videos and stuff. That's like old school.
Yeah, it's just the technology is just a real. It's a real madness. I feel like that's really been the theme of today's episode. Is technology has just come a long way for better or worse.
I have one more question before we leave the Edison, because I can't lie. You guys are starting to convince me that maybe I need to jump in on this. Is there at least one ritual deck I can play in Edison format?
I believe so. I mean, I can look.
Because if there is, there's like, I might have to pick up my blue cards, man.
But just go to like format library.
I've never actually played any Edison, to be honest. It seems like a format I'd be really into, but I just don't. I'm not really. There's not really a huge scene for it where we are, and
it is difficult. Like it's very much a big thing in certain parts of America. Like it's very difficult in the UK to like get people to play Edison and stuff.
We had our first tournament at our locals literally just like last week or something.
Yeah, and I think the thing about GOAT was you could, and where I think the difference between why GOAT was so popular and why Edison is so popular with GOAT, people would just have 2 copies of GOAT Control, and like they would just bring them places, and you could just like trying to play around a GOAT, like, and I feel like you can't really do that with Edison because there's so much choice, and it's not a bad thing at all. But I think in terms of like why GOAT was so quote unquote easily accessible.
It's because it was all pretty much everyone was playing the same thing.
Yeah, definitely. But I do think that Edison is the better format than GOAT from what I've experienced of both, because I think GOAT's a bit dead. But I play LOB format for fun, so you probably shouldn't listen to my opinion.
Yeah.
Guys, I can't. Cyber Angels. So.
Maybe I don't think they got a lot of cards by them, but you could also like I don't think it's like. It's rogue, but like Demise is still a strong card.
Oh, if I can play Demise, okay, yeah. Let me.
I don't know what the state is of Demise and stuff on the ban list at that point.
Yeah.
But like, he's still like a strong card. You can probably do something.
Yeah, some sort of Demise turbo build.
Yeah, let me check. Let me check what the status he's at, so I'm not talking out of my.
Oh,
he's not.
Yeah,
he's semi-limited. So yeah, you can absolutely play Demise.
He's the best card. Yeah. He was the best card then, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a lot of
I think Edison's like probably just going to keep expanding because Konami, I think, are going to realize that like it's really, really good thing to explore.
Yeah.
I hope they do explore this, like, because there's some insane stuff they could do for profit and stuff with this that like that'll be good for the game in general. That like, for example, because Edison has so many different decks that are so unique and everything, doing a Edison event that is streamed would be very good for viewership because they're seeing a different match every time. One of the main complaints you get at YCS streams is, why is we getting another cash light feature? Why are we getting another branded feature? Why are we getting another purely feature and all that? And it's like, yeah, it's because these are the only decks that are getting on top tables.
Yeah.
But in Edison, you're going to see different stuff every time. You'll see a lot of Blackwing and stuff like that, but you'll see new stuff. And like, it was a bit of a miss with the Hidden Arsenal set because it just wasn't a good set. But they could, for example, and this is something that capitalizes on, Edison bringing in a lot of new players because it's a simpler format that teaches a lot about the game, is, if you're printing support for, say, TG, I don't know if TG is a deck that's playable in Edison, but like, let's say TG is just the example here, right? They're printing new support for TG. What if at the same time that set comes out, they print another set that is just a bunch of reprints for Edison of that deck? And you go, oh, someone might pick up that deck in Edison, and they go, oh, they're playing this deck in Modern with new cards, and they've already played the deck, they already know what it does, so they're just like expanding on it, and it would push more people to play like these new archetypes and stuff in and legacy support because they've recently played that rather than the nostalgia of like, people that play like new Dark Magician cards or whatever because they love Dark Magician because they've been playing it over the years, or like Thunder Dragon, hugely popular thing because like Tidra from Goat and everything was such a popular nostalgia thing. You'd be capitalizing on current, I play this deck right now, and suddenly it gets like 10 new cards, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's absolutely something they could capitalize on. I really hope that they do push for Edison to be more of a thing.
Yeah.
So funnily enough, this brings me into something, a topic that happened this week. So there was it was the shareholders thing. Konami shareholders, and they were basically saying that there was two main issues I think they had. The first one was that watching the game doesn't seem very enjoyable to watch for new players. Like, it's hard to get into.
And the second one gets one-sided, particularly.
Yeah, games are really one-sided, and I thought it was really interesting seeing that because, well, firstly, I don't think it's going to matter for us in TCG because this was applicable to OCG, so I don't know if it will affect us in TCG.
Yeah.
But I did think it was interesting that was actually a sentiment that like even the shareholders are noticing because if I like roll back a bit, if you look at RuneScape is not in the best position. Well, actually it's a bit better now, but about a year or two ago RuneScape was in a terrible position because from the perspective of anyone who's not a shareholder, it seemed like the entire motivation was make money, and so it was making it worse and worse and worse and worse. And I thought Konami was definitely going down that point, that the shareholders, as far as they could tell, it was just make money from Yu-Gi-Oh. But seeing this, it might not be the same. So what do you think about those two complaints? I definitely agree. But what do we think about those two complaints that the shareholders had about Yu-Gi-Oh's competitive viewership?
Yeah, so I do definitely agree that there's this issue to look into of like focusing on money or whatever. I think the biggest place in that is Master Duel, and that's like this whole other topic of like how they do that. But so there is an element that like they are talking more so about the OCG and that sort of thing because they that's like the main playbase or whatever that they're referring to, and that's like where they're from. But there's a lot of that does apply to TCG, and it was something that was interesting. I think that they touch on there that someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the rules in the OCG for like tournament stuff is you can't concede. Yeah. Like, so if you're losing, you just have to keep
sit
playing.
There and take it. Yeah.
And that's the reason like Dragoon and Mystic Mine got banned so quickly there, is because they realized, oh, your opponent can activate Mystic Mine and you have to play for 30 minutes and you are not allowed to go to game 2 was a huge problem. So that's like a huge thing they're going to be changing, is that apparently they're probably going to be just changing that to, because I don't know if it's exactly what they said, but they basically said, why don't we make it like the TCG where you're allowed to scoop whenever?
Yeah.
And that would actually be a huge thing for OCG. But it was COO or whatever, whoever was responding to the thing, that was the other thing he said was that they want to address the one-sidedness in ban lists, which is a really... I want to be really hopeful about that. I want to be really hopeful about that because
inspire me with confidence.
It makes me think that the worry is that there's a lot of ways that can go wrong. Is because there's two halves of the game that are both problems with one-sidedness, and that is one, decks that are so high in power level that you cannot beat them without the blowouts, and the blowouts that are so powerful that basically every deck instantly crumples to them.
Yes.
And if you don't hit both of those things, then the problem just gets worse on one of the two sides, right?
100%.
Yeah.
So, like, imagine no deck has an Omni Negate, and evenly matched is still a 3, right? Like, every deck could just be main decking 3 evenly matched, and it'd be a huge problem.
Yeah.
But and on the other side, if you hit all these flip blowouts, like Duster, Lightning Storm, evenly and everything, and you don't hit all the negates and everything, nothing can beat those end boards and it's instant concede. So I want to be hopeful that that means they're going to start trying like lower the power level of these cards, because it's a frustration I have with like both sides of the game in the minute. It's one of the main things I'm not particularly motivated to play competitively. But it's difficult. It's difficult to... I really want to hope that there's going to be some change and that they realize there's an issue with the current state of the game and that it's not sustainable. But it's difficult to be hopeful with like how lackluster a lot of these changes to the formats have been recently.
100%.
I think a lot of people feel very disenfranchised with how the ban list, the cash, just didn't stop it from being the best deck. Like, it was really difficult to stay trusting in Konami as a company.
Like,
when they just
the Sprite and Runic hits just seemed like a joke.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Semi-limiting a card that was played at 2 is just like such a frustrating thing of like, are you just not looking at the decks that are topping?
Well,
right?
I felt like they did that on purpose. That's what it felt like. You guys know, So it's like, you know that this card, you know we only play it 2, but now it's like you just made it clear that, okay, just in case you weren't, okay, we'll hit a little bit.
It feels like a sell your cards before Worlds kind of warning of like, we're gonna keep this format till Worlds, and then the format's changing. It feels like that might be what they're trying to say.
Yeah,
and I hope so. It'd be nice to get a toss ban list, that just slaughters a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
you go, bro.
No, I was going to say, I think I was watching, like I said, I was on a bit of an old Yu-Gi-Oh YouTube binge. I was watching an old Farfa video that came out in 2018, and one of the things that he talked about, and bear in mind this is in 2018, he said the game has become unsustainable in 2018, to the point where like cards were just getting more and more broken, and you had to, but wait, there's an even more powerful card, but wait, there's an even more powerful card. And this is at a point where we didn't have Nibiru, we didn't have Dark Ruler, we didn't have Droplets, we didn't have Talents, but we also didn't have Baron de Fleur, Borrowload Savage. I don't think we have Borrowload Savage yet, like Access Code, like, and then you think someone's having this conversation in 2018, and we've come so far from that. Like, I'm very much, it does fill me with hope, but I'm very much of the opinion that Yu-Gi-Oh will not get any weaker. Cards will get stronger and stronger, and unfortunately, I think that is just going to be a bit of a reality of playing competitively, unless they just periodically have insane ban lists that are like, okay, every deck's playing Dark Ruler, we'll ban that. Every deck's playing Evenly Match, we'll ban that.
Yeah, and one of the things that's interesting is if you look at the way power creep grows, because there's a limit to how strong you can reasonably make a card, and I think we actually approached that limit quite far back, actually. I think probably around 2018, 2019 we started approaching that limit, but then we started to see two differences. One thing is that decks became, so they weren't just strong, they were very consistent and they were very resilient. So consistency as in they're always reaching the end board, resilient as in you crack the end board and then it
do it again.
Back. So, for example, to me, the poster child is, you guys know I'm going to talk about Tier again. So Tier is that perfect example. But then we saw it get to about that limit. But then the next stages, the staples start to get ridiculous. And so it's like now I feel like we're at a point where the staples are so ridiculously powerful that a lot of the time, the reason we're in a balanced format right now is not really because, I wouldn't even say the format's balanced, but the reason why we're in a relatively diverse format right now is not really because like any deck, all the decks are balanced. It's because Kurakara outs every single board. Resolving Talents beats every deck. Evenly Match is ridiculously unfair if it just clears your entire board. And I feel like that continuous progression, the problem with that is that it leads to another problem where ban lists have to be really, really unfair and unsatisfying. So again,
Yep.
if we look at Tier Elements, if I had bought Tier Elements, I did buy Tier Elements, but my point is,
Yep.
as someone who buys Tier Elements, I'm really upset that every card in my deck is banned. What the heck is that? That's actually not how it should be. Like, it shouldn't be. I buy a deck and then every card has to get hit. Similarly, I have to invest. Like, how much was Prosperity to invest in? I don't know. Like,
it would have been about 70 on release, I think.
yeah, so it's like I've invested 240 quid into 3 cards, and then now I'm expecting 2 of those at least to get banned. It's like it gets the ban lists get more and more frustrating, and I think that's another problem with the power creep that we're seeing, where it's like it's having a knock-on effect that, as a player, another reason why I really like Rescue is because it's not that expensive. When I bought it, I bought it for very cheap. The new cards are commons, but then it's like, even as they're commons, MBT made a comment in this video that their common is probably going to get hit, and I was like, God damn, he's right, you know. Like,
look at the Pearly support. Look at the Pearly support.
Like, we know how Konami is. So yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword that it's hurting from both ends as well, and it worries me because I look at Age of Overlord and the power creep they're doing there.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on, Konami? Like
I wanted to talk about one card in particular in Age of Overlord, actually, because it like perfectly captures this issue, right? Because like it's an issue I think a lot of people have, and it's one of the core issues I already talked about, is like that every new deck is ending on very similar unbreakable end boards, and it's generally big monsters you can't battle over that stop your plays, right? Like Arise Hearts, like Baron, like Mirror Jade, like all these cards. And then, in response to this criticism, they print a card like Doomsday Star, which is just normal a monster, summon this, your opponent can't interact with you.
That card's insane.
That card's ridiculous.
This card outs those boards instantly, but you can't play it in a combo deck because it locks you out of summoning. So you could only play it in a trap deck. Oh, look at that. There's a trap deck that's tier 1. It's this...
Yeah, it's terrible. And I think what's even worse about that card is, I think you really hit on the head. The worst part of a multiplayer game is when it's like you feel like you can't interact with your opponent.
Yeah.
I don't understand that card design of, summon this card and basically the game, this turn, as far as interaction is over. Like, I don't like that, and I don't really understand like how you can be at Konami, make this card, look at it and think, whoa, they're gonna really like this one. Like, what? Like, why would you do that? Like, that Doomsday Star card already irritates me because it's not fun when my board gets dark rooted, and I'm also going to be irritated when my opponent does something like summon a Kurokara out half my board and then summon this to out the rest of my board. It's like, what? I didn't even get to. It's like one of the reasons why I don't rate Pearly. I think Pearly's crap. And one of the reasons why I don't rate Pearly is because a lot of the times right now it feels like I don't lose to Pearly. I just lose to whatever side cards they happen to top deck. And so it never really feels like I get to engage with the deck. I just, it's like I build a board and I'm scared to. I don't like being punished for activating my cards. And that's another problem with Cashier as well. And I feel like that's how it's starting to be with a lot of the staples where it's like.
Yeah, that's my big problem with Cashier.
That's
my problem with.
Card get unicorned.
Yeah. That's my problem with Tier, Cash, and Labyrinth. That I don't. Cash, I think, is boring to play against anyway, but like my big problem with those 3 decks is the Ishizu's exacerbated this in Tier. It's not the game balance. Like, I don't mind a deck being the objective best deck. I mind it being designed in a way that prevents you from beating it just by not out of interacting with their stuff, but just that they prevent you from doing stuff. Like, Haverness, I think, is one of the worst designed hand traps in the entire game, because it doesn't say stop something, it says do your own combo, but on your own opponent's turn. It's the problem I have with the new Labyrinth card, that even if it doesn't end up being that insane, I think it's like with Eradicator, people talk about this, that like, oh well, Eradicator isn't always going to rip 5, it most often is going to rip 2 or 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever. But I don't think something should be that random to begin with. But I also don't think, even if it's a chance, that your opponent should be able to just destroy half your interaction. And that's my problem with this new Labyrinth monster, that it says, like, you can high roll, open it and debarrier, and just debarrier your opponent in their turn 1. They have to pass, and then you can just build up your board, set up your lab turn, and they can't possibly come back from that because they lost their turn 1, essentially. That's my problem with Hammerson, problem with Labyrinth, and I think that's a dangerous direction the game is kind of going now, towards
100%.
One-turn games, essentially, where you're interacting with each other a lot, but the turn is still turn 1, and there is not even a battle phase involved. Like, it's like the absolute cap on speed of the game. That's my issue with cash as well, is because like cash, a lot of the cash cards don't matter. Doesn't matter what Fenrir says, doesn't matter what Unicorn says. What mattered, especially at release, was the Diablosis locked you out of playing the game, that Shifter can instantly end a game for a lot of matchups. And Shifter particularly is what really frustrates me, particularly as a branded player, right? Because you'll hear from people like, oh, this deck can play under Shifter, right? Oh, branded can play under Shifter, you can still do your turn 1 combo, right? And it's like, yes, but the 20 cards that would normally be in my graveyard, when the main strength of my deck is reviving a bunch of stuff from the graveyard during the opponent's turn, are now banished. So yeah, I can make a Mirror Jade, and like, or make a Rinbrum or Ice Heart out your board, but now I have one monster, no graveyard interaction, and you're just going to make your combo and banish my stuff and then attack me for game.
It used to tilt me so much when people would be like, oh yeah, Rinbrum out to right side. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, so I've just used the best card in my deck to maybe out your right side, and then you just banish it with Fenrir.
And then you just Fenrir banish it. It's like and I banish my stuff material, so I don't... What am I meant to do?
I mean, with the Shifter against branded argument, you could make the argument that branded like is just a deck that puts a Vanity Fiend on your board. But I get where you're
being legal. The archetype wasn't designed to do that.
You could very much have the same argument about Shifter, to be fair. But I do agree with the points you're making.
I actually think Shifter was fine when the only decks that could play it basically can't kill you. Like, like apart from if Flunder, when Flunder doesn't have barrier statue, like even now when I'm against Flunder players, I'm happy because it's like I have zero fear of them. It's like I'm going to play. I play branded as well, so it's like
I have zero fear because I could just normal summon Albaz and fuse away at him.
Like I'm fine.
Cool, nice wing beast.
But it's like when Flunder shifters me, I don't care. When Exosister shifters me, I don't care. They can OTK, but the deck's not amazing. So it's like but it's when Kashtira shifters me and then monsters and kill me. They summon 3 monsters that they got from one card. It's like, oh, flipping cat, why am I playing this game? Like,
yeah.
And that's the problem with printing these power cards that technically have a restriction, but don't say a restriction on them. That's like, eventually something is going to be able to play this, and as soon as it can, it's going to ruin the game.
Yeah, it's definitely... Yeah, but just to go back to the the shareholders' comments, I think one of the things that I do think... Well, two things actually. Firstly, I think the amount of dead space on Konami streams is stupid, and I've said it for a while. They just do their streams in such
a weird way.
Yeah, it's like they do it in such a bad and weird way, but then at the same time, I know why they do this because that's not how they're making their money, so they don't care. Yeah, it's just done weirdly badly. But I think, especially in terms of the new player experience. So I don't know how familiar you guys are with League, but League is a hard game to understand, and yet I would say now. I would be willing to guess that there's probably just about as many people who watch League for the esports aspect as do who actually play it. And it's because one of the things they did really early on, which was really effective, is they really invested in player literacy. Like, they had so many different things. You had, like, Dash on the Champions Desk explaining how cards worked. I don't know if you guys have watched, like, SportsCenter and stuff, but, like, when they show, like, play-by-plays on SportsCenter, they did the exact same thing in the League esports. So it's like, you'll see what different teams are doing. They kind of even brought a kind of almost like Football Manager kind of thing. So it's like, oh, you have your fantasy football team, but it's like your fantasy league team. And all of these things that they kept on doing during the years in between games, because admittedly, League doesn't have the same time between games as Yu-Gi-Oh rounds, but it's like in between games you would have all of these things happening, so it always felt like we're on the ball. There's no such thing as you're just watching the crowd when you're watching a League event. And so as a result, over time, the streams were interesting and you would understand the game. It's impossible to sit down and watch a League stream and come to the end and not understand anything more about League. And I feel like they could easily do that with Yu-Gi-Oh, but they don't. And I think that is a really easy way to solve the new player experience. Like, no offense, but I don't know what this whole guess the card thing is. Like, they've been doing this shit for like 5 years now. Like, what is that? Like,
it's very low effort. It's like, I think they've started to go in that direction. Like, they start airing in the NA stream specifically. They start airing. No, they've done NEU as well. Where they'll air like other matches from like they did an Edison tournament among the hosts. And that was like played in between rounds, and that's like fine, but you're seeing the same people playing. it's nice that it has commentary. That's like really nice. That was a really good thing. But you could just run an Edison event on the Friday, and then have that, and that's like a whole other tournament people can watch. They did it at the last WCQ in NA, but the footage was from the Friday qualifier, and so you started seeing stuff like top 8 match. It's like, wait, is this the top 8 for the main event? Is this top 8 for qualifiers? And it would be the same players that are topping in the main event. So it's like, it got really confusing.
Yeah.
And also people were like, already know the result of an event like a qualifier.
Exactly.
So it's like, oh yeah, I know this guy wins because I keep up with competitive. So that was a bit of an issue. I think it's starting to realize that just putting in more footage and stuff is like really useful than just all the dead air. But it is definitely still an issue, yeah. It's less of an issue when things can go quicker. Like, I think you wanted to touch over judging a bit, and I can mention this bit, it's sort of tangent into it. That so I judged the UK Nationals this year, and I think what makes it a much better viewing experience by proxy is if the event just runs faster. And what made the UK Nats run so much faster is that we changed to Neuron for pairings and match results.
Yeah, that was so good.
Like, it's insane to hear like all these arguments over the years of they can't change back the time rules, they can't extend match time because it would make events so much longer. And it was like that was like the first like major UK event after the time rules went up to 45 minutes instead of 40 minutes, and that's like over the course of like Top Cut and main event, that's like an hour and a half added to the event.
Yeah, if that.
And it was like 5 hours shorter than last year, and it was just because you weren't handing out match slips at the start. Like, you didn't have judges going around the whole venue handing out match slips. You didn't have people waiting for pairings to be manually entered in off of notes. You would just go, oh, my match is on my phone. I go to it. Oh, my match is done. Win. You can see me clicking win. Okay. And like once or twice in the whole event, we had to call for somebody that hadn't reported. And hundreds of people, once or twice in the whole event, you have to call for someone that hasn't reported is like insane. Like, it was so fast that like, and it's a little bit of a drawback. There's judge, you go to like take a sit down between rounds. It's like, oh, we got 5 minutes, 20 minutes, like, you know, before the pairings open. There's like 3 minutes later, pairings up, get up, go. But that's something that helps with the viewer experience as well. There's like, oh, feature match is done. 5 minutes later, next feature match because the pairings are already up. Like,
yeah.
And to be fair, even with that, for example, with Nats being like, Nats was amazing. Yeah, I agree. Nats was the best run event I've ever been to UK by far. Nats was better than every single regional I've been to. That's how good it was.
Yeah, but like, so smooth.
With it being that short as well, they can actually just have a break. If they decided to have an hour break in Nats, it probably still would have been ran better. And,
they could have put a lunch break in Nats.
Yeah, it would have been fine because Nats. That was, and then that's why I got pissed off then, because then for some reason events afterwards they went backwards.
It's Neuron's still like being worked on, but it's so. It's so much better than the issues with it were so minimal and so few and far between. It was like minor stuff that one judge could fix. Like it's something in policy now that this was the one example I can think of that you can get assigned seating if you need to stay in the same table for the whole event, right? You know, if you've got a disability or whatever, and you can't be expected to, you know, move around the whole event through weaves all the people and everything, you can get assigned seating on the edge of the venue. And the only issue is that Neuron can't handle it. Neuron doesn't know how to do that yet. So you would just, one judge would just find out all the tables that the opponents of those people are at, go to all those opponents, say, this is where you're going. And in the first 5 rounds of the event, 5-minute extension, there you go. And that was it.
Yeah,
and like,
I was going to say, that was something that happened to me in one of my Nats rounds. I was waiting at my table for 5 minutes, no opponent. I'm like, oh yeah, free win. Judge comes over, oh, your opponent's got assigned seating. Here you go. Here's your 5-minute time extension. Good luck. And I was like, okay, yeah, considering I didn't know what was happening, like, that was handled as smoothly as it could be. Yeah. So, I don't have no problems at all.
It's like, that's an issue with Neuron. It's like, but like, it's not something that's going to lead to an issue because when you have your opponent not show up, you have to call a judge anyway. You can't get away. So,
oh, yeah, exactly.
It was not an issue, and that's something that they can just implement in Neuron later. And it's like, I much prefer that to 400 people walking to a table at the end of one poor scorekeeper going, here's all these papers I've got to keep track of.
Yeah, that sounds like a horrible job. It really does sound like a horrible job.
Yeah, right. But we're closing in. We're actually past the hour mark, but we always get past.
Yeah,
the
we
hour.
we went for quite a while, didn't we?
I'm terrible at keeping track.
Huh?
I've realized. I said this a while ago. There was a point when this was meant to be a 30-minute show, and then I just gave up because it just
Yeah,
never
it's
seems
just
to work
you
out.
can get so much out of people. There's so much to talk about.
Exactly. Yeah, I do feel bad for the guests that we did only have 40 minutes for. I feel like we should invite them back.
Yeah, we're gonna have plenty of people back. Don't you worry. Yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
I feel like saying this as well. Tatsium said my thumbnail was good, and it made my heart explode. I thought
Yeah,
just
big up Tats.
yeah,
Big up Tatsim.
yeah,
Big up
Yeah,
Tatsim.
Tatsim's great.
we're gonna have him. We're gonna have him back soon as well. Yeah, it'll be
Oh, excellent.
nice. But yes, thank you so much, Sam. This has been an
Thank you very
absolutely
much.
awesome episode. Have you, before we round off, have you got any shout outs or anything?
The one person I've been shouting out a lot recently is my friend Anti-Ant Art on Twitter, because he does some really insane pixel art for Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, and he's like, there'll be like a new card revealed. He's like just tweeted one right now of like the new IP, the new link to. As like he's just on the board, like, and he puts out some really nice stuff, like really quickly. He like put out some great stuff of Purely, and yeah, I love just seeing one of those tweets about it. It's such good. I love the Yu-Gi-Oh like art side of Twitter. I really like the
shout out Abyss.
insane. Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh artists are so good. It's great to see this. So I'll always shout out those. I guess something from that is like, the problem is you probably talked to a lot of the people I would already shout out as well, like Eva and everything. So I don't really have. I mean, yeah, I don't really have a huge amount of people to shout out. I guess Strobat will love to hear me talking about them. Everyone should go follow Strobat and ask them how well BA is doing this format. They'll really like that. They'll really enjoy that.
So
Everyone should go.
Yeah.
They won't mind that at all.
Yeah, I do have one final question before we round off. That I want to start asking. I do want to start asking our guests this, Skarlon. So you're going to be the guinea pig, as it were.
Yeah,
who would you like to see on this show?
Okay. Okay. So you gotta let me know if it was someone that wasn't already on here. So you've had Eva on here. You've had Crush Cards on here. Have you had Fifth Rate on here?
We inquired about it with Zara, but she was unable to do it due to real life issues. But we do hope to have Zara on here 100%.
Have you had a Golden Nova on here yet?
Yeah, Golden Nova was one of our first guests. He's a real treat.
It was Raukelos?
Yeah, Raukelos is on the list. Yeah, I've been meaning to reach out to her for a while. Twitter DMs are very strange. Thanks for that, Elon. But once they're all up and running, we'll definitely be asking Raukelos to come on.
Can't lie, this is puffing my ego a bit though. That you've mentioned some names like, yeah, we've had.
Yeah, it's all the same close knit sort of group. Yeah. You get like, oh, would it be cool? It's difficult to like get in contact with them, but Ed Templar does interviews sometimes, and that'd be a really insightful thing.
I'm in progress.
Definitely.
I had a chat with him before. Anyway,
Oh, nice.
I won't say too much, but
See, you're just way ahead of me on all this.
But definitely.
It'd be nice to have him.
Yeah, but thank you again, Sam, for coming on. Where can we find you?
On Twitter at SkarlonYGO, or on YouTube at Skarlon, or on Twitch at Skarlon. Very fortunate to be able to get all those usernames reserved.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, loving it. Thank you guys. This was the Yu-Gi-Oh show. Also, look, we've got 2 episodes left of this season, guys. So I'm just gonna say we've got something very special planned for the last episode of the season. So if I was you, admittedly I'm a little bit biased, but I would definitely subscribe to this channel.
Oh yeah,
I would try and keep up. But I don't know, guys. If you're watching at home, make sure to stay up, subscribe to this, because it's going to be an awesome end of the season. Anyway, thank you all for watching. We'll talk to you all soon. Peace.
Bye.